Please read the creation account in Genesis chapter 1. In the beginning God created the heavens and the earth. The earth was without form and void, and darkness was over the face of the deep. And the Spirit of God was hovering over the face of the waters. And God said, "Let there be light." And there was light. Then God saw that the light was good. And God separated the light from the darkness. And the evening and the morning were the first day. And God said, "Let there be an expanse in the midst of the waters, and let it divide the waters from the waters." And God made the expanse and divided the waters which were under the expanse from the waters which were above the expanse. And it was so. God called the expanse heaven. And there was evening and morning, the second day. Then God said, "Let the waters under the heavens be gathered together into one place, and let the dry land appear." And it was so. And God called the dry land earth, and the gathering of the waters he called seas. And God saw that it was good. Then God said, "Let the earth bring forth vegetation, plants yielding seed, and fruit trees bearing fruit according to their kinds on the earth." And it was so. The earth brought forth vegetation, plants bearing seed according to their kinds, and trees bearing fruit, trees yielding their fruit according to their kinds. And God saw that it was good. Then God said, "Let the waters teem with swarms of living creatures, and let birds fly above the earth in the open air." So God created the great sea creatures and every living thing that moves, and with which the water teems and swarms, according to their kind, and every bird according to its kind. And God saw that it was good. And God said, "Let us make man in our image, according to our likeness. Let them have dominion over the fish of the sea, over the birds of the heavens, and over the livestock, and over all the earth, and everything that moves on the earth." So God created man in his own image. In the image of God he created him. Male and female he created them. Then God blessed them, and God said to them, "Be fruitful and multiply, fill the earth and subdue it. Have dominion over the fish of the sea, over the birds of the heavens, and everything that moves on the earth." Thus the evening and the morning were the sixth day. Then God said, "Let us make man in our image, according to our likeness. Let them have dominion over the fish of the sea, over the birds of the heavens, and over the livestock, and over all the earth, and everything that moves on the earth." So God created the great sea creatures and every living thing that moves, and with which the water teems and swarms, according to their kind, and every bird according to its kind. And God saw that it was good. This is the story of how the earth and humanity came to be according to the Bible. Do you believe this account literally happened the way it is written? Or is there another explanation that makes more sense to you? Let me know your thoughts. What I find interesting about this passage is how God is described as speaking things into existence. Did you catch that? He spoke and there was light. He spoke and the waters were gathered together. He spoke and the earth brought forth vegetation. He spoke and the fish and birds were created. He even spoke and man was created. So what does this passage teach us about who God is? First, it shows us that God is the creator of everything. He alone has the power to bring things into existence out of nothing. This is called ex nihilo creation, which comes from the Latin words ex meaning out of and nihil meaning nothing. So ex nihilo means out of nothing. This means that God did not create the universe by transforming something that already existed. He simply spoke things into existence out of nothing. This is a powerful truth that we should never forget. We don't get our life, our health, our jobs, our relationships, or anything else from anyone other than God. He is the ultimate source of everything good in our lives. Second, the creation account teaches us that God is very purposeful in all that He does. Notice how at the end of each day, it says that God saw that what He had done was good. This tells us that God is not a God of chaos, but a God of order and design. He doesn't just do things randomly. Everything He does has a purpose and a plan. Third, this passage reveals that God spoke the world into existence. This tells us that God is not too big or too busy to communicate with us. He actually takes time to speak to us through His Word. In fact, the whole book of Genesis is God speaking to us and revealing His will for our lives. Fourth, this account shows us that God is a God who desires fellowship. Look at the end of the creation account where it says, "Then God said, 'It is not good that the man should be alone.'" God created the woman so that the man could have a helper suitable for him. God created the man and then placed him in the Garden of Eden to cultivate it and care for it. But God didn't want the man to be alone, so He created a suitable helper for him. Then God said, "It is not good that the man should be alone. I will make him a helper fit for him." So from the man, He formed a woman and brought her to the man. Now, I think it's really important to point out that when God created the woman, He didn't create her out of the man. That would have been impossible because no human can create another human. God created the woman out of the man's rib, which was miraculously taken from him while he was asleep. God created the woman while the man was sleeping, and when the man woke up, he immediately noticed that she was missing. And then God brought her to him. And Adam gave her the name Eve because she was the mother of all living. So why did God create a woman for the man? I believe it was for 3 reasons. First, God wanted someone who was equal to the man. Someone who wouldn't view herself as superior or inferior to him. The woman was created from the man's rib, which was his side, not from his head, which would have made her superior to him, or from his feet, which would have made her inferior to him. Second, God wanted someone who was suitable for the man, a suitable helper, someone who could assist him and help him carry out God's plan for the garden. And third, God wanted someone who was sexually complementary to the man, someone who would fulfill his sexual needs and also bear children and populate the earth. But what does this tell us about God? It shows us that God desires fellowship with humans. He doesn't want us to live our lives alone or apart from Him. He wants us to have people in our lives who we can rely on and who can help us fulfill His purposes. It also shows us that God cares about our happiness and well-being. He doesn't want us to be alone or to struggle through life by ourselves. He wants us to have a partner who can help us and support us along the way. Finally, this passage teaches us that God wants us to have dominion over the earth. At the end of the creation account, God gave the man and woman one very important command. Be fruitful and multiply, fill the earth and subdue it, and have dominion over the fish of the sea, over the birds of the heavens, and everything that moves on the earth. So God blessed them, and God said to them, Be fruitful and multiply. Fill the earth and subdue it. Have dominion over the fish of the sea and over the birds of the heavens and everything that moves on the earth. This means that God gave the man and woman the right and responsibility to take care of the earth and all its resources. It also means that God gave them the right and responsibility to protect and preserve the earth for future generations. Finally, it means that God gave them the right and responsibility to use the earth to meet their needs and fulfill His purposes. What does this passage teach us about God? It shows us that God is a God who gives us clear instructions and expects us to follow them. He didn't just create the world and leave it to itself. He gave the man and woman specific instructions on how to care for it and use it. It also shows us that God trusts us to do what He asks us to do. He didn't create the world and then micromanage it. He gave the man and woman dominion over it and allowed them to exercise their God-given abilities and wisdom in managing it. Finally, this passage shows us that God desires a relationship with us, not just a transaction. He doesn't just want us to do what He asks so that we can get something from Him. He wants us to do what He asks because He trusts us and loves us and wants us to succeed. This is just a brief overview of the creation account in Genesis chapter 1. There are many more lessons and truths that we can learn from this passage, but I hope this helps you see the big picture and how this passage teaches us about who God is and how He wants us to live our lives. What do you think? Does this passage change your perspective of God in any way? Let me know in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this video, please like and share it with others. Thanks for watching. See you next time.